Why can't we just cast that spell ourselves once the dancing starts? Zorian let out a long-suffering sigh. You can't make an animation spell do something you don't know how to do yourself. You don't know how to dance, hence you cannot animate anyone to dance either. Also, how are you going to break the spell once the dance ends if you can't move your arms where you want them to be? This really isn't the sort of spell you should be casting on yourself. Really, there were so many problems with the idea that Zorian struggled to put them all into words. Are these people thinking about the questions they're asking at all? So how many dances do we have to learn? 10, said Zorian, bracing himself for the cries of outrage. Sure enough, a rumble of complaints erupted after that statement. Thankfully, Ilsa took over the lesson at this point, instructing everyone to pair up and scatter throughout the spacious room, to give everyone enough space. Zorian could already feel a headache coming, and cursed himself for letting Ilsa talk him into this. Even though room 6 was fairly spacious, there were a lot of people, and the invisible pressure they gave off was particularly strong today. You alright? Menasek asked, putting his hand on Zorian's shoulder. I'm fine, Zorian said, waving his hand off. Didn't like to be touched much. I'm just having a slight headache. Do you need help with something? No, you just look like you could use some company standing all alone in your little corner, Benasek said. Zorian decided not to tell him he was intentionally standing on the sidelines unless he was needed. Benasek wasn't the sort of person who understood the need for some breathing room. So who's your date for the dance anyway? Zorian suppressed a groan. Of course Benasek would want to talk about that. Relationships weren't something Zorian thought about often. The chances that one of his classmates would agree to date him were minuscule. For one, such a relationship would be quickly noticed by the rest of their classmates, and the resulting merciless teasing was something few relationships could survive for any appreciable length. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, all teenage girls liked older guys. Dating a guy that was 2 or 3 years her senior seemed to be a status symbol for a girl, and a majority of them loudly disparaged the male population their own age as crass and immature. When they were in their first year, all the girls wanted to date third years. Now that they were in their third year, all the girls wanted to date apprenticed graduates. Since there were plenty of guys willing to play along, the chances that some girl in his class would give him the time of day was negligible. And the girls that weren't his classmates? To most of them he wasn't Zorian Kosinski, but that guy who is a brother of Damien and Fortov Kosinski. They had this image of what he ought to be like, and once it became obvious that the real him didn't match their expectations, they inevitably became upset. Besides all this romantic stuff, well, Benasek prodded. I'm not going, Zorian said. What do you mean, I'm not going? Benasek said cautiously. Just what I said, Zorian said. I'm skipping out on the whole dance thing. Turns out I had an alchemy-related accident and had to stay in my room for the evening. It was perhaps a bit cliché, but whatever. Zorian had already found a particularly tricky potion that was supposed to make a person more outgoing and sociable, something that was entirely plausible for him to try and make, that would make a person very ill when done wrong, but wouldn't actually kill him. If he does it right, it will seem like an honest mistake, instead of a way to weasel out of the dance. Oh, come on, protested Benasek, and Zorian had to pinch him to make him lower his voice. The last he needed was to have Ilsa overhear him. It's the summer festival, a special summer festival for the whole parallel thingy. Planar alignment, Zorian offered. Whatever, the point is that you have to be there. Everyone who's anyone is coming. I'm a nobody. Benasek sighed. No, Zorian, you're not. Look, Zorian, we're both merchant kids, right? I don't like where this is going, Zorian warned. Benasek ignored him. I know you don't like to hear this, but don't. Just don't. You have a duty to your family to put on a good face. Your behavior reflects on them, you know. There is nothing wrong with my behavior, snapped Zorian, aware that he was attracting stares of nearby people, but not caring at the moment. You're free to go to whatever you want, but leave me out of it. I'm a nobody, a third son of a minor merchant family from the middle of nowhere. People here don't give a fuck about me. They don't even know who I am, and I like it that way. Okay, protested Benasek, gesturing wildly. Dude, you're making a scene. Whatever, scoffed Zorian. Leave me alone and go away. The nerve. If there was anyone who should take a look at the impression he was leaving to people, it should be Benasek. The irresponsible leech would have been dumped into a Tier 3 group if it wasn't for Zorian's constant help, and this is how he repays him? Why was he even hanging out with that guy? He scoffed, trying to calm down. Stupid summer festival and stupid dance. The funny thing is that unlike most people who hate these kinds of events, Zorian wasn't strictly bad at them. He knew how to dance, he knew how to eat without embarrassing himself, and he knew how to talk to people at these kinds of events. He had to know these things because his parents used to drag him along with them when attending these kinds of events, and they made sure he knew how to behave himself properly once there. But he hated it. He had no words to describe how much events such as these sickened him. Why should he be forced to attend something he hates when the Academy had absolutely no right to demand it of him? No, they had no right to demand it at all. Hesitantly, Zorian knocked on the door to Ilsa's office, wondering why she called him here. There was no way. Come in. Zorian peeked inside and was promptly told to have a seat while Ilsa calmly sat behind her desk, drinking something out of a cup. Probably tea. She looked calm and serene, but Zorian could detect an undercurrent of disapproval in her posture. So, Zorian, Ilsa began, you've been doing quite well in my class. Thank you, Professor, Zorian said cautiously. I try. Indeed, one could say you're one of the best students in your group, a student I intend to take under my wing after this whole festival rust dies down. An example to everyone, and just as much a representative of your class as Miss Stroh's. Oh, this is bad. I don't... So, excited about the dance this Saturday? Asked Ilsa, seemingly changing the topic. Yes, I am, Zorian lied smoothly. It sounds like a lot of fun. That's good, Ilsa said happily, because I heard that you planned to boycott the event. It was rather upsetting, I must say. I was rather clear that attendance is mandatory, I believe. Note to self, find something horrible to do to Benesek. A spell that causes the target's tongue to feel like it's on fire or something, or maybe piercing pain in the genital region. Just a bunch of nasty rumors, Professor, Zorian said smoothly. I would never dream of intentionally boycotting the dance. If I'm unable to attend... Zorian, Ilsa cut him off. Professor, why is it so important that I would show up there anyway? Asked Zorian, a bit of crankiness seeping into his voice. He knew it was a bad idea to blow up on a teacher, but damn, this whole thing was pissing him off. I have a medical condition, you know. Crowds give me headaches. She snorted. They give me headaches, too, if it makes you feel any better. I can give you a potion for that. The fact is that I'm one of the organizers of the dance, and if too many students are absent, I'll end up with a black mark on my record, especially if someone as prominent as yourself were to not show up. Me? Prominent? I'm just an average student, Zorian protested. Not nearly as average as you think, Ilsa said. Just getting this far requires extraordinary intelligence and dedication, especially for a civilian-born student like yourself who wasn't exposed to magic your entire life. People keep an eye out for people like you. Also, you're Damien's younger brother, and we both know how famous he is. Zorian's lips stretched into a thin line. Zorian was sure the last reason was what it all came down to in the end. And all the other arguments were just excuses and attempts to butter him up. Even with his brother on a whole different continent, Zorian still couldn't escape from his shadow. You don't like to be compared to him, she guessed. No, admitted Zorian in a clipped tone. Why is that? She asked curiously. Zorian considered sidestepping the question. His family was a sore subject for him, but uncharacteristically decided to go for honesty. He knew it wouldn't do much, but he felt like venting at the moment. Everything I do is always compared to Damien, and, to a slightly lesser extent, Tav. It has been that way since I was a child, before Damien ever became famous. My parents have never been shy about playing favorites, and since they were always interested chiefly in social achievements, I was always found wanting. My family has no use for a withdrawn bookworm, and made that abundantly clear over the years. Until recently they ignored me completely, treating me more like I was my sister's babysitter than their son. But something happened recently that caused them to take notice of you? Ilsa surmised. Fortov happened, Zorian growled out. He bombed several exams, had to be bailed out by father's connections. He's shown himself to be generally unreliable, which is a problem because he was supposed to be the spare heir for the family business, just in case Damien dies on one of his escapades. So now I am suddenly taken out of the metaphorical closet so they can groom me for the role. But you don't want to be the spare, she guessed. I don't want to be involved in Kaczynski family politics, period. I'm not part of a family anyway. Never was. At best, I was only ever a loosely aligned associate. I appreciate them feeding me and funding my education, and I'm willing to reimburse them for that when I get a job, but they have no right to ask something like that of me. I won't hear it. I have my own life and my own plans, none of which involve playing second fiddle to my older brother and wasting time on insipid social events where people suck up to each other nonstop. He decided to stop there, because he was just making himself angrier. Plus, he suspected Ilsa didn't empathize with him much. Most people thought he was simply being overdramatic about his family. They weren't the ones who had to live with them. When she realized he wasn't going to say anything more, Ilsa leaned back and took a deep breath. I empathize with you, Zorian, but I'm afraid such comparisons are unavoidable. For what it's worth, I think you're shaping up to be a fine young mage yourself. Not everyone can be a prodigy like Damien. Right, said Zorian, refusing to look at her. She sighed, running her hand through her hair. You make me feel like the villain here. Family issues aside, why are you so bothered by this? It's a party. I thought all teenagers liked parties. Are you concerned about finding a date? Just ask some first years and they'll jump at the chance. They can't attend unless invited by an upperclassman, you know. Zorian released a sigh of his own. He wasn't looking for a way to find a date. He had no doubt that simply dropping his last name would net him some impressionable, giggly first year for the evening. He was looking for a way out. Something that Ilsa wasn't willing to provide him with, it seemed. I'm not getting a date, Zorian told her, rising from his seat. I may have to come to the dance, but I'm pretty sure that bringing a date is not mandatory. Have a nice day. He was surprised that Ilsa didn't try to contradict him as he left. Maybe this whole dance thing won't be such a chore. Zorian trudged through the corners of his residence building wearily, not in any real hurry to get to his room. The teachers had refrained from giving them any substantial homework over the weekend, knowing that everyone would be too preoccupied with the summer festival to get any work done. Normally all that free time would be a godsend to Zorian, but just thinking about what he would have to endure tomorrow was enough to make Zorian lose the will to do anything fun or productive, so he fully intended to go to sleep the moment he arrived at his room. As he entered his residence building, he noted that someone was already in a celebratory mood, because the walls of the corridor he was passing through were full of colorful splotches in vivid yellow, green, and red. Zorian! Just the man I was looking for! Zorian jerked in shock at the loud voice behind him, and whirled around to face the man who invaded his personal space. He scowled at the grinning idiot in front of him. Why are you here, Fortov? What? I can't visit my little brother? He protested. You are too good to hang out with Big Bro? Cut the crap, Fortov. You never come to me when you just want to hang out with someone. What do you need help with now? That's totally not true, he huffed. You're my favorite brother, you know. Zorian stared at him impassively for a few seconds. Damien isn't here, so you'll settle for me, huh? Damien is an asshole, Fortov snapped. Ever since he got famous, he's always too busy to help out his younger brother. I swear, that guy only thinks about himself. Hypocrisy is thick with this one, Zorian mumbled. Sorry, I didn't catch that, Fortov said. Nothing, Zorian waved dismissively. So, what kind of trouble are you in now? I might have promised a friend I'll make her an anti-rash potion, Fortov said sheepishly. There's no such thing as an anti-rash potion, huffed Zorian. There is, however, an anti-rash salve, which is applied directly to the affected skin instead of being imbibed like a potion is. It just shows what a total dunderhead you are when it comes to alchemy. What the hell were you thinking, promising your friend something like that? I kind of pushed her into a purple creeper patch during our wilderness survival class, Fortov admitted. Please, you have to help me. I'll find you a girlfriend if you do. I don't want a girlfriend, snapped Zorian irritably. Least of all the kind of girlfriend Fortov would set him up with. Look, why are you bothering me about this? Just go to the apothecary and buy some. It's Friday evening. All stores are closed in preparation for the celebration tomorrow. Well, that's too bad, 'cause I can't help you, Zorian said. First 2 years are all theory and lab safety, and I'm just starting my 3rd year. We haven't done any serious alchemy in class so far. So true, and yet such a bald-faced lie. He hadn't done all that much alchemy in class, but he had done quite a bit of private study in his free time. He could make an antidote for the purple creeper rash easily, but why should he spend his expensive alchemical ingredients? Oh man, come on, you can speak 3 different languages and you know all the silly shaping exercises they make us learn, but you can't even do something so basic? What the hell are you doing in your room all day long, if not learning how to do stuff like that? You're one to talk, Zorian snapped. You're a year older than me. You should be perfectly capable of doing this yourself. You know I never cared for alchemy. Too fiddly and boring for me, Fortov said with a dismissive wave. Besides, I can't even make vegetable soup without ruining Mom's kitchenware. Do you really want me around alchemical equipment? Well, when you put it that way. I'm tired, Zorian said. I'll make it tomorrow. Are you crazy? Tomorrow is too late. Oh, come on. It's not like she'll die of a goddamn rash, said Zorian irritably. Please, Zorian, I know you don't care about these kinds of things, but she's crushing on this boy, and... Zorian groaned and tuned him out. That's pretty much all he needed to know about this emergency. And if my friend's rash isn't fixed by then, she won't be able to go, and she'll never forgive me. Please, please, please. Stop it. Please, 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 please. I said stop it. I'll do it, okay? I'll make the damn solve, but you owe me big time for this, you hear? Yep, he said cheerfully. How much time do you need? Meet me at the fountain in about 3 hours, Zorian sighed. Zorian watched him as he ran away, probably so he wouldn't change his mind or make some concrete demands. He shook his head and went back to his room to retrieve the necessary alchemical reagents. The Academy had an alchemical workshop students could use for their own projects, but you had to bring your own ingredients. Fortunately, he had everything he needed for this particular task. The workshop was totally empty aside from him, but that wasn't very unusual. Most people were preparing for the dance tomorrow and were unlikely to do some last-minute alchemy practice. Unfazed by the eerie silence of the workshop, Zorian scattered the reagents across the table and set to work. Ironically, the main ingredient of the anti-rash salve was the very plant that was the cause of this mess, the purple creeper, or more accurately, its leaves. Zorian had already left them to dry in the sun, and now they only had to be ground to powder. This was generally the most annoying part of the procedure, as purple creeper leaves released a cloud of irritating dust into the air if they were simply crushed with a standard mortar and pestle set. The textbooks he read had all sorts of fancy ways to deal with this, usually involving expensive equipment, but Zorian had a much simpler solution. He wrapped the leaves in a slightly wet piece of cloth, then wrapped the whole thing in a piece of leather, then hammered the resulting lump until he felt no resistance. The irritating dust would bond with the cloth, and the leaf pieces wouldn't. After mixing the leaf dust with 10 drops of honey and a spoon of oblea berry juice, he put the whole thing over a low fire, stirring the contents until they achieved uniform color and consistency. Then he removed the bowl from the fire and sat down while he waited for the stuff to cool. That was very impressive work, a rather feminine voice sounded behind him. Nice improvisation with the creeper leaves. I'll have to remember that trick. Zorian recognized the owner of the voice, though, and Kale wasn't really female, despite some nasty rumors. He turned around to see the Morlock boy, studying his bone-white hair and intense blue eyes for a moment, before returning his attention to cleaning the alchemical equipment he had used. No reason to get barred from using the workshop just because he failed to clean after himself. He struggled to formulate a response while Kale was inspecting the salve with a practiced eye. The boy was rather mysterious, having only joined their group this year by transferring from God knows where, and not being very talkative. Plus, he was a Morlock. How long had the boy been watching him? Sadly, he had a tendency to lose track of his surroundings when he worked on something, so he couldn't tell. It's nothing special, Zorian finally said. Now your work, that's impressive. I get the notion you're on a whole different level from the rest of us when it comes to alchemy. Even Zack can't beat you most of the time, and he seems to be acing everyone these days. The white-haired boy smiled mildly. Zack doesn't have the passion for the subject. Alchemy requires a craftsman's touch and a lot of patience. No matter how extensive his knowledge is, Zack just doesn't have the mentality for it. You do. If you had as much practice with alchemy as Zack apparently does, you'd surpass him for sure. Ah, so you think he has prior experience too? Zorian inquired. I do not know him as well as yourself and the rest of your peers, having only recently joined your group. Still, one does not get as proficient in this field as Zack apparently is in a matter of months. He works with the practice ease of someone who has been doing alchemy for years. Like you, cried Zorian. Like me, Vale confirmed. I hate to be rude, but are you finished here? I'd like to make something myself today. Zorian apologized to the boy for the hold-up, which the Morlock waved off as something of little importance, and bid him goodbye. As he walked away, it occurred to Zorian that he should probably have made some kind of sleeping potion for himself while he was at it. He had to get plenty of rest tonight, because he certainly wouldn't get any tomorrow.